You ever feel like your life is a perfect picture? One of those Hallmark movie moments where everything just clicks? That was me, standing on the edge of my future, ready to marry the woman I thought was my soulmate. We had it all. The wedding venue booked, our families flying in, the honeymoon paid for. Our friends called us the perfect couple. She made me feel like the luckiest man alive. I thought I knew her. I thought she was mine. But I was a fool. It all started a few nights before the wedding. I was out with my best man, Jake, and a couple of the groomsmen, just grabbing drinks, keeping things low-key. No crazy bachelor party, no strippers, just beers, memories, and talk about the future. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was her. "I love you so much. Can't wait to be your wife." I smiled. She always knew the right things to say. I texted back, "I love you too. Just a couple more days." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You two are sickeningly cute, you know that?" I just laughed. "Yeah, Matt. She's the one." I believe that. I really did. The night went on, nothing out of the ordinary. But then, right as we were heading out, Jake's phone buzzed. He frowned as he looked at the screen. His expression shifted. First confusion, then something worse. Anger. "What is it?" I asked. He hesitated. "Man, I don't know if I should show you this." That's never a good thing to hear. "Show me," I said, already feeling my stomach drop. Jake sighed and handed me his phone. It was a message from an old mutual friend of ours. Attached was a blurry photo. At first, I couldn't even process what I was looking at. It was her, dressed up, laughing, drink in hand, with another man. I blinked. This can be old, right? Jake didn't say anything. He just scrolled down. More pictures. Mwah. But it wasn't just one guy. It was a party. A very specific kind of party. Swingers. My stomach twisted into a knot. My hands felt ice cold as I scrolled through the images. My fiancée, the love of my life, the woman who was supposed to be faithful to me, was at some underground swingers event, partying like she didn't have a wedding ring waiting for her. Like she wasn't 2 days away from being my wife. I couldn't breathe. When? My voice came out hoarse. Jake hesitated. Last night. Last night. I swallowed hard. My mind was racing. I had spent the entire day texting her, planning our wedding, loving her, while she was doing this. Jake was watching me carefully. "Listen, man, I don't know the full story, but I knew you needed to see this before you marry her." I clenched my jaw. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe there was some insane explanation. But deep down, I knew. I knew what I saw. She betrayed me. And she thought she was going to walk down that aisle like nothing happened? No. No, she wasn't. I wasn't just going to call off the wedding. I was going to make sure she never forgot what she threw away. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the woman I was supposed to marry, laughing, touching, betraying me. By the time the sun came up, my mind was clear. I wasn't going to be the guy who sat in silence, letting this woman humiliate me behind my back. No, she wanted to act like she was single, like she could have me waiting at the altar while she lived her secret life. She was about to learn exactly what it felt like to be played. I pulled out my phone and did something that made my blood boil. I texted her. "Me. Morning, beautiful. Can't wait for our big day. Just 2 more sleeps. I love you." It killed me to write it, but I needed her to feel safe. I needed her to believe I was clueless, so when the moment came, when the ground fell out from under her, it would hit harder. She responded almost immediately. "Good morning, my loss. I'm so excited. Can't wait to be your wife. I love you more than anything." The audacity. I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles cracked. More than anything. Then why had she spent last night with them? I put my phone down and exhaled slowly. She was going to pay. I wasn't going to rush this. I wasn't going to storm over to her place, yell, demand an explanation, and give her a chance to lie her way out of it. No, I needed proofs, undeniable, irrefutable proofs. I needed to catch her in the act. Luckily, Jake knew a guy. A few quick calls, some fast cash. And by that evening, I had everything I needed. A phone tracker, a hidden camera disguised as a charger, access to her social media backups. And within hours, I had confirmation. She had another event planned. Tonight. This wasn't some one-time mistake. This was who she was. She was planning to do it again. I could barely stomach it. But at the same time, I felt something else. Paint. Calculated. Focused. If she wanted to humiliate me, if she wanted to play me for a fool, I was about to return the favor. I parked a block away from the address I pulled from her messages. Some fancy house in a gated neighborhood. The kind of place rich people use for things they don't want the world to know about. Jake was with me, gripping the steering wheel so hard I thought it might break. Bro, you don't have to do this. I do, I said, my voice even. I need to see it for myself. He didn't argue. He knew me well enough to know I wouldn't back down. I slipped out of the car and made my way to the house, careful to stay out of sight. The music inside was loud, muffled bass thumping through the walls. Laughter, conversations, moans. My stomach turned. Through the back fence, I spotted the patio doors, slightly ajar. People were moving inside, dressed up, drinking, indulging. And then I saw her, my fiancée, dressed in something tight, her hair done perfectly, her ringless hand resting on some guy's chest as she whispered something in his ear. And then she kissed him. That was it. That was all I needed. I pulled out my phone and hit record. She had no idea she was being watched. No idea she was throwing her entire future away on camera. I recorded everything. Every touch. Every stolen whisper. Every betrayal. And when I had enough, I walked away. Because I wasn't going to make a scene. No, that was for tomorrow. The day she thought she'd be walking down the aisle. The day she thought she was about to marry me. She had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I woke up with a feeling I couldn't quite describe. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was something colder, sharper. Clarity. I showered, dressed, and checked my phone. The video I recorded last night. I had already made copies. One for myself. One sent to Jake. One sitting in a draft email, ready to be sent if needed. At exactly 9 a.m., I got a text from her. Her morning love. Can you believe it's finally here? Today's the day. I love you so much. I stared at the message for a long time. She really thought she had gotten away with it. I forced a reply. May, I can't wait to see you at the altar. I could almost hear her giggle through the phone. Oh, sweetheart. You have no idea. The wedding was set for noon. By 10:30 a.m., guests were already arriving, taking their seats, chatting excitedly about the perfect couple. I shook hands. I smiled. I played my part. Jake stood beside me, arms crossed. You sure you want to go through with this? I've never been more sure of anything, I said. He sighed. All right, man. Just know, whatever happens, I've got your back. That's why Jake was my best man. At 11:45 a.m., the coordinator came up to me. She's ready. We'll start in 15 minutes. I nodded. Perfect. The music started. She walked down the aisle like a dream, like the woman I had once believed she was. A picture-perfect bride, smiling at me with all the love in the world. I almost laughed. She had no idea that her world was about to crumble. She reached me, took my hands. I love you, she whispered. I met her gaze, my face unreadable. Then, just as the officiant cleared his throat to begin, I turned to the crowd. Before we start, I have something to share with all of you. A murmur ran through the guests. She squeezed my hands, confused. Babe. I pulled out my phone and hit play. The speakers were connected. The entire venue, my family, her family, our closest friends, heard everything. Her laughter, her whispers, her betrayal. Gasps rippled through the audience. Her father shot to his feet, eyes wide. Her mother covered her mouth, shaking her head. And my beautiful bride? She went pale. Babe, she stammered. I turned to her, my voice cold. Don't. Just don't. But it's not. I stepped back, shaking my head. You threw it all away. For what? For a few nights of fun? Was it worth it? She reached for me, but I pulled my hands away. You're not the woman I fell in love with. Tears welled in her eyes. Please. Bye. I turned to the crowd, took a deep breath, and said the words that sealed everything. There is no wedding today, but there is a lesson. I turned to her one last time. Actions have consequences, and you just lost everything. Then I walked away. Behind me, chaos erupted. Her bridesmaids whispered furiously. Her mother sobbed. Her father looked ready to kill her. But I didn't stop. I kept walking, because I had already won. I walked out of that wedding venue like a man walking away from an explosion, never looking back. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, but I kept my face calm. I refused to give her, or anyone, the satisfaction of seeing me break. The second I stepped outside, Jake was right there, waiting. He had my car keys in hand. Holy crap, he breathed. Dude, that was... I don't even have words. Drive, I said, sliding into the passenger seat. We peeled out of the parking lot just as the murmurs inside turned into a full-blown storm. My phone started vibrating like crazy. Texts, calls, notifications. I turned it off. I didn't care what anyone had to say. I had done what needed to be done. She had made her choice. Now she had to live with it. For the next few hours, I went radio silent. No texts, no calls. I needed space. I needed air. I checked into a hotel under a different name, turned my phone off, and just breathed. And when I finally turned it back on, the messages were exactly what I expected. Her, please. Just talk to me. I can explain. Her maid of honor. You didn't have to humiliate her like that. You could have handled this privately. Germán, I am so disappointed in you. I thought you were a better man than this. For Dad, call me when you can. That last one gave me pause. Her father had always been a stern man, respected. He didn't like me much at first, but over time, we had built something close to a real bond. He had invested thousands into this wedding. And now, because of his daughter's actions, it was all for nothing. I took a deep breath and called him. He answered after one ring. Silence. Then, I had no idea. His voice was raw, broken. I could hear the exhaustion, the shame. I know, I said. Another long pause. Then, quieter, he asked, what happens now? I exhaled slowly. That's up to her. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. More silence. Then, just before he hung up, he said something I'll never forget. I would have done the same thing. Click. As much as I wanted to cut her out completely, life wasn't that simple. The fallout from the wedding spread fast. Within days, everyone in our social circle knew what had happened. She lost a lot. Her father stopped speaking to her. Her mother was trying to fix things, but it was useless. Friends started distancing themselves, especially the ones who had families of their own. But the worst part? Her job. She worked for a small, conservative company. Apparently, someone had leaked everything. Not just what happened at the altar, but the swingers' party. I didn't do it, but someone did. She wasn't fired, but she was forced to resign. Her life was unraveling, piece by piece. And the guy she had been messing around with? Gone. He ghosted her the second the wedding scandal went public. She lost everything. And me? I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No glee. Just peace. Because I didn't need revenge. Life was handling that just fine on its own. A week later, I stopped by my apartment to grab the last of my stuff. I had already broken the lease, decided to start fresh somewhere new. And when I got there, she was waiting, sitting on the steps, looking like a shell of the woman I once knew. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She looked up when she saw me, her breath hitching. Please, she whispered. I crossed my arms. Say what you need to say. She swallowed hard. I messed up. I didn't respond. She wiped at her face, trembling. I don't even know why I did it. I was selfish. I was stupid. And I lost you. Her voice cracked. I miss you. I clenched my jaw. No. You missed the life we were supposed to have. You missed the security. You don't miss me. If you did, you wouldn't have done what you did. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. I shook my head. No, it was a choice. She broke down sobbing. But I felt nothing. Finally, I said the only thing left to say. We're done. She let out a choked sob. Please, can't we just? I turned away, walking to my car. Go home. She didn't follow me. She just sat there, broken, as I drove away. And I never looked back. I drove away from that apartment for the last time, leaving her behind in the wreckage of her own choices. The moment I turned the corner, it was like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt free. No more wedding. No more lies. No more her. I didn't look back. I didn't answer her texts. I didn't let myself get pulled into the guilt she wanted me to feel, because I didn't know her anything anymore. In the weeks that followed, people picked their sides. Some friends, real ones, stuck by me. They saw the betrayal for what it was. They understood why I did what I did. Others, they thought I was cruel. You should have ended it privately. You humiliated her in front of everyone. She made a mistake, but did she deserve all this? I ignored them. Because the truth is, people don't like when consequences are public. They prefer betrayals to be hidden, covered up, whispered about in corners. They don't want the world to see what someone really is. But I didn't regret it. She deserved for everyone to know exactly who she was. And as for her, she tried to rebuild. She posted those vague, "I'm healing and growing" Instagram captions. Tried to paint herself as the victim. But people now, her old friends distanced themselves. Her parents barely spoke to her. She had to move back in with her mother, start over from nothing. And the new, exciting life she thought she was choosing, it didn't exist. She lost everything, for nothing. Months passed. I focused on me. I moved to a new city, started a new job, hit the gym, reconnected with friends I had neglected. And one night, Jake and I sat on my balcony, drinking beers, watching the city lights. He raised his bottle, to dodging a bullet. I smirked, plinking mine against his, to seeing the truth before it was too late. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something real. Peace. Because yeah, she shattered everything I thought I knew. She made me question love, trust, my own instincts. But in the end, she also set me free. And that was the greatest gift she could have ever given me.